Run, party, repeat. Welcome to the East Coast Adventures Dirt and Vert Podcast, where we talk all things running, racing, and training to help you get ready for your next big adventure.
Learn from our successes and our failures, and have fun at the same time. Join us right here every week with inspiring guests who share their captivating tales from the trails. And remember, nobody cares.
Run faster. All right, welcome back. This is the Dirt and Vert Podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Matt.
And we have a guest that we got to meet, or that I got to meet at No Business this year. Matt was getting ready to work Firewater while I was at No Business. Yep. So we were splitting duties for East Coast Adventures. And while we were working the aid station, we had this gentleman come flying through the aid station at Duncan Hollow. And I was like, this guy's moving pretty quick. I'm like, I watch him, we help him. You know, he doesn't really need anything, and then he takes off, and his wife is crewing him. So I just immediately go over to his yeah. So I go over to his wife, and I give her my email address and phone number for David, and I'm like, will you tell him to message us? We'd love to have him on the podcast. So here we are with David Sullivan, very talented athlete, obviously, been into ultra running for just a little while, but he has several podiums. Just going through his ultra sign up results, looks like you're from your very first 100 on, you've had pretty good success. And then, you had great success this past week, 2 weeks ago, I guess, at No Business.
Yep.
Coming off with the first place win at 22 hours. So, David, it's pretty cool that's a pretty special race, but also to win it, it's pretty amazing. So if you don't care, tell us a little bit about who you are and how this whole running journey started.
Well, golly, David, I probably couldn't, I couldn't tell you about myself any nicer than you already told them about me. So thank you for that. But no, I guess, like I said, I mean, I've been kind of doing the sport for a little bit now. I started running really, just as a hobby in college. This is going to sound kind of weird, but like my last year in college, I just had like a crap ton of free time, and I was working the early shift at Belk. So I was like stocking shelves and stuff before people came in. And then, I only had classes like 2 days a week, and, nobody in college is doing anything before like 3 p.m. So I just had like this giant chunk between getting off work and 3 p.m. So like I just started running like a lot. And I didn't really like know what I was doing. So I would just literally just like, if it wasn't raining, I'd just go run and run and run. And then, I just thought that was fun. And I ended up hiking the Appalachian Trail after that, which was a super experience, and I absolutely loved it. Through the trail experience, I met my wife, Catherine, who is far and away a much more gifted athlete than I am. She's a superstar, and she started signing up for races. So I think we would do the Ath Half together like every year. We'd go and do the Ath Half. My sister would watch our kid, and we'd go run. And then she just kept wanting to do like longer races. So she'd sign up for a marathon or a 50K. So I'd be like, okay, I'll sign up for a 50K. And then, so like, it just kept going from there. And I don't know, like I'm kind of a competitive guy. So like that first time I felt success of like doing well at a race, that first time I got a podium, I was like, yeah, this is for me. I'm going to lean in and do it. Yeah. So I hope that kind of hit at it. But I mean, basically just kind of grew.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you started on the Appalachian Trail. Like that's kind of like, so did you hike the entire AT?
Yeah. I did a regular tradition north south through hike. And like I said, that's how I met my wife, because while I was working at Belk, I was planning that through hike, and one of my coworkers was had also through hike like a year or two prior. And so he actually set my wife and I up on a date because she had through hiked like 3 years prior. So we were 100% set up just through having that mutual trail interest. So it was pretty, it was pretty special. And we still we don't get to backpack as much as we used to, because we've since then we've had, we just keep having kids. We got 4 kids now, so that's kind of hard to pack up an tent and all. But we kind of, we've discussed. It's kind of trail running, especially like is kind of the best of both worlds, because we get to go out there and see a lot of the trail that, you love and you get to see, and you get the overlooks and all that. But I still get to, like, come home and have dinner. I still get to, like, do things like that, as opposed to, if you go hike and you hike like 5 miles, that's like your whole day. Whereas if you're like running, I can, you can knock out a 20 miler on a Saturday and still have some other stuff to do.
I mean, that's a great point. And it's kind of, it gets you out in nature and gives you that same feeling of just, being by yourself, a little bit of mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
But that, that doesn't work when you sign up for a 100-miler.
Well, I mean, a little bit. I mean, I kind of, my boss actually was asking me before the race. He's like, I just did a 5K, and I'll be honest with you, it seemed like even the whole time I was out there, at some point I got a little bored. How do you do it for that long? And I was like, man, dude, I get to hang out with my favorite person for 22 straight hours. Me. Like,
That's awesome.
No, you're exactly right, though. It does. I mean, it's an encompassing thing, but like, I don't know. For me, one thing that has struck me from, like you mentioned, doing Georgia Jewel that first time to, like, every time I do a 100-miler, like, from beginning to end, well, like, one of the biggest feelings I have just literally is gratitude, just because it kind of hits you, especially, like, again, not to hammer this too hard, but, like, having the family that I've got, having the kids and all that, like, it kind of hits you that, not only am I getting to come out here and live this dream of, running, getting to do these, like, really, like, big things, but, I've got my parents or her parents willing to watch my kids for the weekend. My wife's out there helping me out, the countless hours to train that I got to do. Like, I mean, it's just like, you really realize, like, from the volunteers to the race director, just how much of an ecosystem there is. And you can't help but just feel gratitude towards every person you interact with during that race, because like, I'm out there doing something I dreamed about for weeks, doing something I planned for. But the guy filling up my water bottle, he's just out there to help other people do it. Like, I mean, that's just so, like, that's such a cool thing.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well said.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, you kind of get that same feeling just volunteering, and that's the thing that, we were talking about this, I think on the last podcast, which we haven't even released yet, but so people will hear that. But it was like, how do you get started in, what's your advice to someone brand new? And, I thought Ron did a good job. He said, volunteer. And there's a lot of truth in that. Like, if you volunteer, you just learn about running, you learn about trail running, you learn about this community, you learn about fueling, because I mean, I can't tell how many times you're trying to learn how to run. It's you hear all these stories, and I'm this guy too, and I'm sure Matt is, like, electrolytes. The very first time I ran a race, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, salt.
Well, and you kind of gotta, like, I mean, I think you're right. You got to start dipping your toe in or getting it. You got to get in the pool to find out, because, I mean, you just don't realize. Like, here's one thing you just don't know till you don't know. Yeah. There is something inside a tailwind that I cannot digest. I'm not a science guy. I couldn't tell you what it is. 10 times out of 10, I drink that thing, I'm gonna vomit in about 25 minutes every time. So, like, if I, like, going into no business, I'm looking at that runner's manual, man, and I'm just like, we got tailwind at every aid station. I was like, I got to come with my own stuff, because, like, I can't. And like, there's nobody that's going to tell you, be like, hey, man, you might not be able to drink some electrolyte drinks, but you can drink. Like, nobody's ever going to tell you that. Like, you just got to be out there and figure it out. Like,
yeah, you're exactly right. You've got to test it, because every race has something different. I mean, Pinhoti this past weekend, what did they have? I was trying to remember. They had Roctane.
Oh, that's good.
First race I've ever been at where they actually had Roctane. So that was kind of cool. I was like, and what's funny is, David, all I've used for the last 2 years is Roctane.
Yeah. Sweet.
But I just switched to Tailwind. Oh. So I had to take my own, like, all my stuff, like you're talking about. Like, I had to take all of my Tailwind, through every aid station. So I'm, like, carrying packets of white powder everywhere.
So, like, you just switched to Tailwind. When I got to Firewater, Kathy's like, yeah, we're not doing Tailwind this year. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. What are we doing? We're doing first form. I'm like, well, I've never had first form. So I'm tasting it at the aid station before. I'm like, well, this tastes pretty good. And so I actually filled my bottles up at the aid station with this first form, because if it was tailwind, I wasn't even taking a chance on it.
So you just tested it in the race, huh?
It worked. But hey, tailwind messes me up. I don't like it. I can't do it.
Dude, I don't meet many. I'm glad you said that, Max. You don't meet too many people that say, like, no one else I know gets that way. So I'm glad I'm not like out there a soldier alone. Yeah.
I can't do it.
Oh, no. You would actually be amazed at how many people we've had on this podcast that say that.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Good.
They can't drink tailwind, and for the longest time, I couldn't drink tailwind. This is the first time, and I just tried it on a whim again because I was trying to find something with more sodium.
Yeah.
Because I sweat so much salt now that I've had a test, or been testing myself, but for some reason it's working now, so I'm just like, let's go with it. Go. But used to, I was the same way. I could not touch tailwind.
No, I don't even like the flavor of tailwind. Like, it's so like light, but it's a weird light, and I can't. I just drink it. I'm like, oh, this is just awful.
Just throw you a Jolly Rancher in there, you'll be okay.
I don't know. Roctane.
And that's why I love having my wife there and somebody helping out with crew. Like, I'm sure, David, I'm not sure if you noticed, but like, I mean, as soon as I saw her, I just swapped my bottles out because she had it ready. But like, for it, like, I always think it's so funny because like during the race, like I always needed to be like cut less and less and less, where by the end, like in your mind, like in my taste buds, I'm just like, man, this Scratch or Gatorade or whatever, man, this stuff is lemon lime for sure. And then like I'll be cleaning them out like the next day, and I'll be like, there's nothing in this. This is like basically water. Like your body just like gets so fixated. I'm just like, oh man, this stuff is strong. And then I'll come back later and be like, this stuff, there's nothing in here.
Yep.
Oh yeah. And you got those too, where like you mix something in the bottle and you finally pour it out and you just fill it up with water, but all you can taste is that same flavor because that bottle still tastes that way. You're like, well, that didn't help.
Yep.
Yeah.
So David, let's talk about your very first race. What'd you say your very first race was?
So my first trail race actually ran the Helen Holiday half, which is just a half marathon. And then my first ultra was it was called like Xterra or something. It's put on, it's over at Fort Yargo. And it was a 50K. It was a 2-loop.
Grill in the Hills. Is that it?
Yeah, Grill in the Hills. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it was it was funny because I'd run it as a marathon the year before, and they added the 50K option the next year. And really, it was a good race. It was a fun race. But the reason I did it was actually because my wife had signed up for Quest for the Crest in North Carolina and was like, oh, it'd be so fun. You should do it with me. And so I signed up for it too. And then we get the emails with like all the information about it. And it's like, oh, hey, you have to have run a 50K before doing this. And I was like, well, I've never done that. And she had, and I hadn't. So I was like, well, I guess I better knock that out. And like the quest for the Thrill in the Hills was actually like just the next 50K on the calendar that I could get into. So I did that basically so I wouldn't because in my mind, I don't know if it would even happen. Like, let's face it, somebody would have to go through the rolls and verify it. I don't know if that would have happened, but in my mind, I was like, oh shoot, I'm just not getting this money back. Like I'm gonna show up for the race. They're not gonna give me a bib, and I'm just out, money. Which I'm just like, that's horrible. I can't let that happen.
Yeah, you never know if a race director is going to check that or not. So you're just like, oh yeah, I better do it.
Yeah.
Basically, if you're supposed to be running it with your wife, you better do it for sure.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Otherwise, I don't know what. I mean, I guess I would have just had a Saturday in North Carolina all to myself. Which, in hindsight, I don't know. That might have been the better choice.
So you ran the Helen Holiday half marathon 2 years in a row, and the next time you shave, 12, 13 minutes off your time, and then you go run the 50K, and you run a solid 50K there at Fort Yargo. I don't know if that's road or trail, but 4.5 hours.
Yeah, it's trail. Dude, I'm going to be honest with you. You might as well be I don't remember my times on these things at all. So I'm learning it with the rest of the audience. So I appreciate it.
Well, that's a solid first 50K time, like 4.5 hours. That's great. Like
No,
it really is.
yeah, no, it's a pretty, I don't want to say forgiving, but it's a pretty fun course because it's very, it's mostly bike trail. So there's a lot of puds, just, a lot, very rolling. So like, I think my marathon time on that probably doesn't translate super well to my 50K time, just because like that whole first little bit, like I said, I mean, I came into running with like no training. Like I just kind of started it. So like, you'd come on those like little bike bumps, like that. And I was like, that whole first race, I was like, I don't know what to do. I was like, I don't know, two steps. So like, so then like I come back the next year, I was like, I'm just going to jump from the top of the one to the next. So like, I was like, oh yeah, this is how you do it. So you kind of had to like taught myself how to actually like run on that course.
Yeah, I would say Quest for the Crest was a learning curve too. That's a tough 50K.
Yeah, and actually that was that one I do remember, and mostly because I rolled my ankle pretty hard, not like you did at Pinhoti, but I rolled my ankle like pretty hard at like mile 25 or so, and like it's pretty much a downhill finish. So like I kind of like it watched myself just, all right, man, I'm doing pretty good. I'm kind of feeling myself, doing good, rolled my ankle, and then I'm just like, oh, there goes somebody. And I'm just like walking this downhill because like my ankle hurts so bad. Just like going, man, I really would love to be running right now and just couldn't.
That's a terrible feeling when you can run, but you can't.
Yep.
Yeah. You're just like, I did not. This is not how I saw this going. Earlier in the race, I walked a hill just so I could run this, but no, that's just how it goes sometimes,
Yeah. You never know. I never thought I'd be the guy to roll my ankle at mile 1. I've heard those horror stories, and then you're like, oh, that happened.
Yeah.
So you do the half marathon, you do a couple 50Ks. Did it feel easy, or was there some really, really low moments in there where you learned something about yourself?
That's a good question. So actually, the first time, I don't think that there's ever, I don't feel low that often during running, just because, again, like going back to that gratitude feeling, it's just like, I mean, it's a blessing to be out there. I just, like it's an activity I love. And so if I'm out there getting to do it, I'm going to feel good. But like the only times I've ever felt like not great, and I think part of the reason that I got like you said, a stout finish time on my first 50K is because I remember going into that race, like somebody out there is going to relate to this. Like I got up to the start line and I'm just like, man, I've trained for this thing. If I don't do well, my wife's going to think I'm cheating on her or have a drug problem, because I spend a lot of time away from the house. Like, I got to have something to back up the amount of time I'm not at home. Otherwise, she's going to start asking questions, and it's going to be real embarrassing to be like, yeah, I'm just not very good at this, but I committed hard. Like, so I kind of in the back of my mind, I was like, I better do good. Otherwise, I've got some explaining to do. But so then like, we go through, and I'm starting to get some 50Ks under my belt, and we volunteered at Georgia Death Race, which was real fun. It was, like you said, volunteering's a great way to learn about the sport. And like, I mean, you're watching people, and we were at the last aid station before the finish. So, I mean, we're watching people come through as their worst selves, like no one's coming through there. And I'm just like, man, that guy's looking so fresh. But so like we're doing that, and part of the volunteer process is that you have the option the next year to bypass the lottery. And so like we're sitting there having dinner with my in-laws the next day, and they're kind of like, oh, do you guys think you might ever run something like that? And I had not honestly given it a thought, but my wife was like, yeah, I'd probably have to train real hard. I'm not sure I could be ready for it next year. And something in my mind, I'm like, a year's a long time. I could be ready for it next year. Like, yeah, why wouldn't, I don't know. a lot of things change in a year, man. Like you literally made a whole human inside of you in less than a year. I think I think I can run a race in a year, you know? But so I did, I registered for it, and then I was going through and I got to I'm doing the Duncan Ridge Trail 50K for a train and run, which I think, you got the fact check on me there. I think that's I think that's the first time I won anything. Like, I'm not talking like first ultra I won. Like, I think that might be like the first time I won, like, you know, church league softball, like, you know, something like that. Like, I mean, this is like the first time I was like, hey, no one's here before me. Like, that's interesting. But so I remember that was a super rainy day. And I fell, and it did kind of one of those things where like I'm sliding down a hill and my elbow's touching something. I look over and it's the bottom of my foot. And I'm like, man, that's not, these two body parts don't know each other. So like I got like, there was a second there where I'm like, man, I'm not doing this sport again. But luckily it was just like paranoia. It wasn't like an actual like injury. I was able to get back up and finish the race out strong. And then the next day I was like, okay, I didn't actually hurt myself. But you know, times like that are the only time where I'm like super like low. Is like, oh man, did I just ruin the next time I get to run? You know, like, you know, I've never had a DNF, but like, I'm more concerned about what's happening after this race at that point. You know, like if you tell me, hey, you're going to limp this thing out and finish it, but 5 years from now you're going to regret it, I'm going to have to do some thinking. But if you're to tell me, you're just like, hey, you're going to have to limp this thing out and you'll be fine tomorrow, I'm going to limp that thing out 10 times out of 10. You know,
that's a good mindset to have. There's a lot of people in the ultra community that's trying to get their first 100-miler that can't really get that yet. You know, they're trying, but you know, running that aid station at No Business, we saw, I mean, that aid station is a very hard aid station for a lot of people. Especially that day, it was extremely hot, and we saw a lot of people that just kind of like they lost it at that aid station. Like, it was just, things weren't going right, and you know, all it takes sometimes is a crack.
Yeah.
And that crack turns into a valley that just leads to like nowhere, and they just stay in their chair and they time out. And we had several.
You got to stay away from that chair, man. That's a that's a bad news.
Absolutely. So, you know, I mean, the mindset you have though, that's great. That's the mindset you have to try to finish your very first 100, because your first 100 most of the time doesn't go great. Like, it's
that's the thing that like whenever, like, because I mean, let's face it. I mean, you guys know. I mean, most of the people in your life don't run hundreds. So like everyone you talk to has questions that, like, you know, it's like and that's one thing I always tell them is, like, you got to be ready physically. Like, I mean, let's face it. Like, I mean, I think people are just, I always say, if you give me 6 weeks, I can get ready for a race. But that's only because of what I've done up to this point. Like, you know, like it takes a while to get to where you can do 100. But like what I tell people is, it is so much more mental than you realize for that exact reason. Just because, like, the first thing you got to realize is like, oh man, I can't run that far. Shoot, dude, nobody runs that far. There's a lot of walking going on. Like, you know, like, don't worry about it. But like, you know, and then, like you said, something's gonna go wrong. Like, that's why I personally, like, I do just love that distance. I love the 100, because something's gonna go wrong for everybody out there. It doesn't matter if you're running, you know, a 33-hour just ahead of cutoffs day, or if you're, you know, Jim Walmsley over at Western States. Like, I mean, something's going wrong at some point in that day. Like, you know, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, there's not a lot of 24-hour periods where something doesn't go wrong for me in life. Why would I assume that just because I'm running, that's not going to be the case? So like, as soon as you realize that, like, not only is something going to go wrong, you just got to be prepared for it. something's going wrong for every other person around you at some point today. It's just how you get through it, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, you sum that up perfectly.
Yeah.
And then in all of that, figure out how the hell you're going to eat.
Yeah. Early on, man. Yeah.
You know, and that's something that, like, if it's really hot, you have to be able to, like, guide yourself through that, because you got to be able to feel your way around with your stomach. And the only way to do that is exactly what you said in the very beginning. And that's, sometimes you just got to, like, do it. You just have to go out there and feel around and find out what works for you. Just like, you know, tailwind doesn't work for you, but other things do.
Dude, it's so funny. We've done this twice. There's a race in South Carolina put on by Hammersmith. It's called The Longest Day, and it's a progressive 100K loop. So it's a 2-mile loop, and you start out and you get like 45 minutes, and the next loop you get 44 minutes, and so every single loop you got to be faster and faster and faster and faster till the end. You got to run like that last loop. It's like a 15-minute 2 miles.
Wow,
and, man, dude, that thing is tough. It's a beast. But the thing that cracks me up is there's a local cross country team that's like always there. And the first year we're doing it, I'm watching these guys. I mean, they're looking so strong. I mean, you know, no offense to anybody, if you're not looking strong at a 40-minute 2 mile, maybe you shouldn't have signed up. I don't know. But like, you know, they're looking strong going through the day. And then they start dropping like flies, and you're listening to them at the tent, and you're just like, man, so like, are you feeling okay? Have you had electrolytes? What have you eaten all day? It's like, man, you know, I had a can of Coke and some goldfish. And you're just like, you've been here for 10 hours, man. Like, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You got to eat more than a goldfish and a can of Coke in a 10-hour period. Like, come on.
We got a couple running buddies that eat like that.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't feel good. I'm like,
what do you eat today? Well, I ate this. I'm like, you're 7 hours in. You haven't. What are you drinking? Water. Well, that might be the problem. Just might be.
Yeah, dude, on race day, I always like I like to alternate between, like, you know, the classic like runner goose stuff, and then also like, dude, I got a whole pack full of like real food. And I mean, not like, you know, anybody that's like into like nutrition science is gonna hate hearing this, you know, because you don't want to. You know, I'm out there, like you said, winning no business. I got freaking like Doritos. I got some like granola bars. I mean, like, I'm not talking like I got like good stuff in there. Like, I got straight junk food.
Hey, that's what you need, though.
It burns quick.
You got to have something that doesn't really slow your digestive tract down, because when you do, that's when you generally bonk. Like when you start throwing other stuff in there that, you know, I see people that like eat a burger and stuff like that in a race, and then they get sick. Now the people that are just back there partying and having fun doing this 100, that, you know, they don't care. That's awesome. Eat your burger, go have fun, chug your beer. You're rocking it. But
like, I have always been torn between the liquor shots at the aid station and the podium. I'm like, man, I don't know what it is.
Oh yeah.
There was one weird aspect, I thought. I mean, you know, going through no business, I get to the second to last aid station, right? And they specifically said, they're just like, welcome to Harrison County, Kentucky, or something. Like, they told me I'm in Kentucky. There's like, I got everything you need. I got quesadillas, I got this, I got Jack Daniels and Fireball. I'm just like, okay, first of all, like, I'm not looking for liquor right now. I'm trying to win this thing. Second of all, I'm not coming to Kentucky to drink Jack Daniels and Fireball, man. You guys are known for two things, and I don't see horses. Let's make it happen, you know?
I don't know. I mean, I used to start every race with a shot of Fireball.
Yeah, you did.
And, you know, I mean, as long as you keep it in moderation, it's not a big deal. But some of these guys, I mean, yeah, they're
going hard. Yeah.
Yeah. They're, but again, you know, like, that's the choice that they made, is like, they don't care.
That's their experience.
They're there to enjoy the aid station, enjoy the people, and just have fun. And I love that. You know, like, if you know exactly what you want and that's what you're doing,
Oh yeah.
Dude, yeah, you get after it, man. Yeah.
Now, I will tell you this: when my goal goes to poop, that's when I bring out the shots. You know, I'm like, if I'm just falling apart, and I'm like, yeah, dude, podium's out of the way. Just give me the shot. You know, we're good.
Yeah.
Done.
I think some people, that's like they're going to race. That's what they're going for. They're going for
100%. Oh yeah.
They're going just for the shots, the people to hang out with, and
it's the community.
That's because it's a great community, man. I mean, like it's like we were hanging out for hours at the finish line for no business. Just cracking beers, hanging with folks. I mean, it's great. You meet, you meet folks you wouldn't meet out there in everyday life, and they're a lot of fun, man. Yeah.
And that's what's really cool. It's like, that's how we met you. Like I'm sitting there and I see you come through and I'm talking to you and, just drop my email address to your wife and, roll on with our day. But, we're out there having fun. And regardless of what aid station you're at or what runner's out there, it's like it's that community that is so special. And there's so many good races at this point. Mm-hmm. Like you can't really just say that, this race, there are so many. And what's so cool is that you can sprinkle people from every race into those races. Like you may not see everybody, but you're going to see 2 or 3 of the people at every race you go to. And it's just so cool now.
Because you're 100% right. Yeah.
Everybody's trying to experience all these races. And it's just,
like if you're in the Southeast, you just kind of know, like, you're going to see people, at these things. Because, I mean, like, there are some of the races like No Business and Pinhoti and stuff that are kind of like these legacy races that, like, they've been around for a long time and you know about them. And like, people just want to do them because, like, there's, I mean, let's face it. Like, in North Georgia, there's a lot of really great races, but like, I personally, like, I kind of want to go other places and see things that I didn't train on. That's kind of a fun motivation. So it's like a vacation,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's kind of like when you first get into running, you're running all the stuff close to you.
Yeah.
But then you're like, okay, I might go do this race in Tennessee. I might go do this race in Alabama. I might go do this race in, and like, that's the thing. It's like your local community is kind of what starts it. And then
I don't like to,
you just want to go see different things.
Well, and I also like, I kind of mentally, like, I don't want to, there are some spots where I don't really want to run a race on it because I know as soon as I do, I'm going to want to run fast on it every time I show up. And I'm just like, no, this is not what I do here. Like I go here and I run these miles. Like, I don't want to go I don't want to mentally be like, all right, let's turn it on here. Like, no, I just want to go enjoy my Saturday, man.
Well, let's talk about your very first 100. So you said it was Georgia Jewel, and that was in 2021. Mm-hmm. How did that experience go?
Oh, real well. We were talking beforehand. That was actually because the 100 is just like, I mean, like, dude, it's an intimidator. Let's just be honest. Like, I mean, that's the big boy, like, so I really wanted to do good. I was nervous about it. So like, I went and I like printed out a training plan. I'm kind of a cheap guy. I didn't buy one. I just Googled free and I printed it out on my work computer. And so then I did it, man. I was checking them off. I was doing the box and all that. Like I set up like a spreadsheet for my dad and my wife to crew me. And so like, I feel like I prepared for that race a lot harder than I prepared for anything else. And so we went out and like, it was just, man, it was clicking. Like, I mean, it was from start to finish. I had a buddy, Aaron, that was also at the start line. So we chatted with each other and then, we get started. We're going, I go and I see my aide for the first time. I'm talking to him. I'm feeling good. And, for anybody that doesn't know the course on Georgia Jewel, it's like, and Matt, you've done it. So correct me if I'm saying anything super off base. It's like 35 miles out. And then there's 2 loops that you do at a horse park. And so for the 100, you go 35, loop 1, loop 2, loop 1, loop 2, 35 back. So for like, I felt like for my first 100, it was a really good one because of that setup. It made it easy for the crew to hit me. And because like, you spend so long in that one area you know, you just keep coming back and they don't have to move.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
So I was like excited about it. So I get in there and we get started. I'm going, I hit that second air, you know, I hit that like loops area, and I'm just, dude, I'm feeling good, man. So like I start hitting those loops hard, and like I think some of my fastest miles were in that like middle section. And so, you know, I'm eating good. My family's like, you know, cheering me on, which is great. And then I've got my pacer, Carissa, who I've run with. And we actually, it's funny, I'm wearing our orange hats. Like we all just got orange hats so that we could run on hunting lands. And so we're running, I'm running with my pacer, Carissa. It's going well. And they've organized the race specifically so that most of the finishers finish at the same place in a specific window. So I've got two other friends, Cassie and Jared, who are running the 35. And so I actually literally run into them on the course. And so like we see each other and like it's really excited. So like I saw everybody that was at that race that I knew like while running that race. And so, you know, I come in and I mean, you're not like blind to it. I knew when I left the horse park that I was in second place. So, I mean, that was like cool. And I, based on my times, like I was hitting where I wanted to be on my time. So it wasn't like, I didn't want to like I didn't let it get like too big for me. I was like, oh my God, I'm in second. What do I do? Like I just knew I was running the race that I wanted to run that day. And so we come in and I get to the chute and I finish and do that. Like it was freaking awesome, man. It was good. And like I had no clue. Like I was shocked. The next guy comes in like 45 seconds behind me.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
I mean, it was literally like if I'd like lollygagged even a little bit at like that, like at any point, it would have been shooting me down.
Wow. That's crazy in a 100-mile race. You don't see that very often.
Dude,
like,
you think that's crazy. If it's not like super important, but like you pull up that Pinhoti 2022 result. I think I came in like sixth, right? If you look at the overall result, there are like 5 of us that finished within like 3 minutes. It was tight.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was, I mean, I'll be honest.
Kyle Calbus finished. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We know Kyle pretty well too.
Okay. Yeah, no, he was a nice guy, but actually that was one of like, I'm going to be honest. I probably should have thought about this whenever you asked me about like my load. That was actually probably one of the only races where I wasn't like super happy the whole time. And it was really because it was such like a weird, like, you know, I'd gotten like caught up in the idea of like, oh, I got to keep my Western States tickets alive. But like, just, it was like a busy year. I just didn't have a lot going on. I was like, well, you know, Pinhoti's a big race. I want to do it. So I got in, but then it was just busy. I don't know why I didn't train that good for it. Like I could excuse it away. I just don't know what happened. And then my wife couldn't come crew me. And that was the first time I was going to run a race that my wife wasn't there for. So it was kind of weird. And like, I've always felt good about every race going into it. And that one, I just felt neutral about it. I didn't have like a good feeling, a bad feeling. And I knew I was going to miss the Georgia. I'm a huge Georgia Bulldog fan. So like, I mean, it was Georgia, Tennessee. I was like, you know, like I actually had like a premonition the night before. Like I had a dream. I woke up. I was like, man, I think this is what the score is going to be. And it ended up being the score. That was cool. But like, so the whole race, like I'd come in and get like updates on the score, but then like I got tired. Like I just got tired at the end. I'm like I'm like, God, this sucks. I'm not having a lot of fun. This is no good. And then, you know, I go to the bathroom, a guy passed me, and then like I'm literally like racing a guy like right at the end. I mean, he wasn't tired. I was tired. I didn't have a pacer. My wife wasn't there. I was in a bad mood. And, you know, we come through the finish line and it was actually so like, but again, like just the way I'm wired, I don't know why, but like we come to the finish line and my first thought wasn't, well, okay, I'm glad that's done. My first thought was, I can come back and do better. Like I can do better than this. And so then the next year I came back and actually, I got a 3rd place finish on that one and improved my time by like 40 minutes or something. But, But it's funny because I brought my pacer. It was a really cool experience because my buddy Charlie had run the Keys 100 as his first 100 like the year before, and I hadn't talked to him in like 5 years. His dad just called, like his dad married me and my wife, like he was the minister, and his dad called me. He's like, "Hey, Charlie's running the Keys 100. Do you have any tips?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so like we started talking. I hadn't seen this guy in 5 years. I was like, "Hey, do you want to pace me for Pinhoti?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, of course." And so like I haven't seen him in 5 years. And he pulls up in the parking lot to pace me. I was like, "Oh, sweet, you look the same. That's good." So,
you look like you can still run.
yeah. So he paced me in, which helped my mood, helped my experience. But we did make a wrong turn at one point, and like Kyle Croft, he followed us. Like, so we went like pretty far off course. And so then we come back on course and I look up and the guy who got second is like cresting a hill in front of us. So, I mean, like we were trying to chase it. We just couldn't catch him. But I mean, like it was so like, it felt great to know that like we made like a pretty big mistake and still ended up on a podium finish. But at the same time, I'm just like, kicking myself that whole, like I ended up running, like trying to catch this guy. Like I ran like an 8:30 my last mile, and like I'm just sitting there thinking, I was like, man, if we didn't make that mistake, we'd had this thing in the bag.
Well, like you said, anything can happen in a race.
Anything,
Yep, yeah, and you just got to keep moving, man. Like that's like, I don't know if you caught this theme, but like I just love racing, man. Like it's a cool thing, and like you guys are race directors, you love it too, just because
Yep.
like it's one of like the few things in life where you just kind of, you are the work you put into it. Like as soon as you show up on that day, you can't be more like, you're not getting more fit while you're there. Like you're gonna run the time you run, and you just work yourself off, you work your butt off. And then you just show up for the knife fight. Like, I mean, everyone else there is running their race, but like, I can't control what's happening to you. You can't control what's happening to me. I just got to run my race. And I mean, good or bad, something will work out. Like, I mean, you could literally be running, a freaking crazy, like that guy at Pinhoti running like a 17-hour 100, and then coming out of the last aid station, fall over, break your leg, DNF. Or you could be, running back of the pack and 100 guys, get lost, fall over, and all of a sudden you win. Like, I mean, you just don't know. You just got to control what you can control and get out there and let the result speak for itself. I mean, I just love that about the experience. It's just, you show up as who you are. And as long as you stay true to what you wanted to do that day, you're going to get what you put into it.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's no $10,000 bike. There's no, aerodynamics. It's, the most important thing you're going to buy is shoes, and they're not that drastic. I mean, they're not going to save hours off of your time. No. So it's very much the work you put into it, but also the work along with the mindset that you put into it, and that's that discipline and dedication and being ready to when something goes wrong, because it will.
It definitely will.
When something goes wrong, you are prepared and ready to face that. And that's the hard part.
Yeah, like what they say, like, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. Like, that's
yep.
I keep getting punched in the face.
You've been hit pretty hard.
Well, that's why, like, I kind of tell myself, like, there's going to be a lot of decision points in the race. Like, hey, do I need to pull up on this hill? Hey, do I need to eat this? Hey, I just threw up. Hey, I rolled my ankle. I always tell myself, like, I'm going to need to make the decision. But the decision of, am I going to finish this race, got made as soon as I signed up. Like, I mean, I don't even want that to enter my brain that that's not an option. So, like, that's why whenever something goes wrong, I just know, I'm just like, hey, we're going to get through it, or else I wouldn't even come today. Like, that's just kind of my mindset.
Yeah. And that's the mindset you have to have. The only excuse you truly have for yourself is if you're going to injure yourself further, or you've already created an injury. But the puking, all the stuff can be fixed. Yeah.
Yep.
Now,
and like, I do love, like,
Go ahead.
like that's one thing at like the big, like, that you get at like the 100K and 100-mile like races. Dude, I think literally everyone that toes that start line's a straight killer. Like, I mean, like you look around and first of all, dude, you had to literally stand up there and say, I'm going to put my name next to this. Like, I'm going to go out there. Like, I mean, that takes a lot of bravery no matter where you are. Like, the audacity to say, I am going to use my feet to go further than most people go in a day. Like, I mean, that takes a lot. So, like, first of all, like the fact that you showed up there, major kudos. But like, just knowing what everyone had to go through to get to that line, like, I mean, you're just seeing like salt of the earth people from bib number 1 to bib number 300. I mean, it's just every single person there is just a warrior at heart, or else they wouldn't be there,
Yeah, I mean, it's the hardest part of the race is showing up.
Yeah,
It truly is. Like, some people still have never made it to that starting line, but just making it to the starting line is more than 99% of the population will ever do for a 100-mile race, because there's that few people that do it, and I mean, that takes guts.
Well, and that's what, like, one thing that I talk about with some of my friends and all, like, the word gets thrown around in the ultra community as like, this like godlike status, the elite runners. These guys are elite. These guys are elite. And it's true. They are so, like, those people are so elite. Like, you're just like, man, some people are like, how do I get there? Some people are like, I could never get there. But like, when you start looking at it from like a math perspective, man, I mean, dude, just finishing compared to the 8 billion other people in the world, dog, you're already elite, man. Like, like you're up there. Like, there's not a lot of people out there doing this thing.
No.
Yeah. I mean, just to get under 24 hours is spectaculer in a 100-mile race, especially a trail race. It's a little easier when you're doing track and stuff like that, a track race or a road race, but to go sub 24 on a trail, that's pretty special.
Yeah, dude, I ran a 155 road race one time. That was a different ball game, man. Just because, like, you don't realize how much in a trail, like, we all hate the hills, right? Like everyone's like, oh my God, look at this hill. Like, all you talk about before the race is where's the big climb? Where's the big this? All you talk about after the race is, man, I was struggling on that hill. Like, we all hate the hills. But then you show up and I'm doing this 155-mile road race. And I'm just like, oh my God, there's no hills. There's never a time to stop running. Like, I had to like I had to like figure out reasons not to run. I was like, oh man, well, it's a big curve in that road. A car might be coming. I better go ahead and take a walk break here just to keep these legs. Like, you don't realize how much, like, on that trail race, you're walking up that hill, just working different muscles. You're given a different set of break. Whereas I'm running next to that road. I was like, I've been doing the same thing for a long time here, man.
Yeah, I know that feeling all too well. We've both done Ball State, and we did a 24-hour track race.
Mm-hmm.
So my wife, I crewed my wife at a 24-hour track race, man. That's a different animal.
It's the same thing though. Like, you just get to the point, you're like, I just want a small hill.
You're like, you run and you're like, when can I like walk? Because, on a trail, you get to a hill, you're like, I'm walking. This is great. You relax. And then on the track or the road, you're like, I'm walking and there's no reason to walk, but I've got to walk because this is crazy.
Yeah. And like, you're hardwired when you come from the trail, you're just like, all right, hike the ups, run the downs and flats, run the downs and flats. And then you show up to something like that and you're just like, it's all flats. I don't know what to do.
Yeah. You're like, well, you got to run. Like, your mentality is run everything flat.
The most exciting part of that track race was getting to go to the porta potty.
Yeah.
I went one time to the porta potty, not to the warm spot. Afterwards.
When I was crewing them, it was fun. But so I was crewing 3 people. I was crewing my wife, my buddy Aaron, and my friend Carissa. And it was a weird day because, like, I mean, it got up to like 70. And then at night it got down to like 31. So, I mean, like, but like, it was fun because, like, I'm just like, for me, there was a lot of action. I'm just like, oh, hey, you want some water? No, you're good. All right, cool. You want some water? Like, I got 3 people. They're always coming around this track. But like, it was just kind of funny because like I'm working them. I'm like trying to help them get through. They all buckled, and I think they all might have podium too. So like I mean
that's
crew
awesome.
chiefs get credit, and it was fun. My friend Aaron, I love him to death. He but like he's kind of one of those guys where things don't always go that great for him, like so he's going around, he's doing it, and like every time somebody gets to that 100. Oh, congratulations, so-and-so, 100 miles. Oh, here's your buckle. And they're handing it to him mid-race, like they're going around. And finally, he goes around at the start line. He goes, hey, are you going to say my name? It's like, oh, like, for what? It's like, for 100. And they looked, he's at like 100.5. Like, he's literally gone like 6 laps since the 100. And they just didn't know. I was like, all right, Aaron got it.
So this race sounds like the Stinger.
It is the Stinger. Yeah, man.
That's the same one we did.
That's the one we did, yeah.
It starts out like 70, 80 degrees, and then it starts snowing sometime in the middle of the day, and then it turns like 20 degrees.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What'd you do yours in 2021?
Yeah, 2021.
And I did mine in 2022.
I finished the 100 in like 21.
I think I was there in 22.
Were you?
Yeah.
We had like this. Everybody remembers our Easy Up. This was there because it was a green gazebo, and
it flew everywhere,
and it blew away. I had to go chase it down because I was crewing to him and Mike. But and
Matt,
the year I did it.
Did you happen to see the guy running around in the inflatable dinosaur?
Oh man, I don't know. That was my first official 100, so I was pretty like get to 100 and we're calling it quits. But let's see here. You said
it's kind of sad that this is the last year they're doing it, though.
I know, yeah, because that's a fun event. I mean, it sounds murderous. It is murderous, but it's a fun event, man.
And the food is wonderful.
Oh, I know.
I mean, they got it dialed in. That dude is amazing.
Oh, yeah,
He'll come out there and run the track with you and ask you what you want to eat.
Handing you waffle fries as you go around. Yeah.
Yes, he's so cool. I was so miserable at that race, though. Literally, when I hit 100 miles, I walked back to my tent and went to sleep. I did. It was like 21, 22 hours. I just went to sleep. He starts calling.
Well, I'm keeping up with him because I was supposed to be there at that race, but then I had some like weird heart thing that happened like the week of. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't get to go. And then Mike didn't get to go. So he was down there with just his crew. And I wake up and I'm like, dude, you've hit 100. Like, these people are quitting. It says they're done. Why don't you just get up and keep going?
Yeah, just get a few more laps in.
And I could not get him to do it.
Yeah, they're like waking me up, and they're like, Matt said, if you'll run 2 laps, you'll move up like 5 spots. I'm like, I'm done. I just grabbed my cover, and I went back to bed, and I said, y'all leave me alone.
And then the next year, I went and did the 24, and as soon as I finished that 100 miles, I got it, and I said, I am done with this stupidity. And then exact same thing. If I had kept running, I would have kept moving up because people got the 100 and they would stop. They got the 100 and they stopped. And I'm like, no, I'm done. This is because I had 2 hours to keep going. Or 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours to keep going. And I could have kept running with Mike and I could have got more. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm going to sleep. And then I sit down and I fall asleep. And then the canopy disappears. The wind takes it, and David is chasing this thing down.
The race is over. They're asleep, and I walk to the truck, and I come back. And when I come back, all I see is them asleep, and there's no canopy. And then I start running down that track trying to catch the canopy because I finally see it. The wind's blowing, and I'm like, they had no idea, like, even where it went. They were just sitting there.
Did you say that your friend was Aaron and Carissa?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yep. That was the same year that me and Mike did it.
Yeah. No, dude, that weather was miserable. But the guy that ended up winning, man, I was in right next to him. I mean, he had like 8 pairs of shoes. He was changing. He would change out the left shoe, not the right shoe. He was changing, and then like, I mean, partway through, he just takes like a long nap break. And I'm sitting there thinking, I was like, I'm like trying.
Oh no,
he did not. And then he like pops back up and starts running.
He did not take a long break. He quit.
And
I know we know Shay.
It's so great, yeah.
I went over to show and I said, he was cramping. His calves were cramping really bad. So he just quit. I think he put on house shoes or something.
House shoes and
walking
walking
like slippers.
And I go up to him. I said, "Listen, man, I got the massage gun. I got a therapy gun. I've got salt pills. What can we do?" And I gave him everything. And within like an hour, he was back out there running. And I ended up crewing him too. So he didn't really have a crew. So I ended up crewing him all night with Mike and Matt.
Dude,
so
that's wild. So I guarantee we at least exchanged words because I was right freaking next to him. So that's so wild. Yeah.
Yeah. And we were like, our tent was on the other side of him.
Well, he was on the opposite. So he was on that corner and we were on this other corner. So it was like diagonal where we was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he didn't have a gazebo or nothing. All he did was put liquid IV in his bottles. And he had them all sitting there with all of his shoes and all that stuff, and all 10,000 pairs of Topo shoes.
Let's talk about your last race. So I want to make sure we get this. So No Business 100. So going into this race, like, how did you find it? Like, what brought you to No Business, and then also, what was your plan?
So honestly, my friend Cassie, she volunteers at it every single year. And she's always talking it up being a good race. And so, I'm bad about I'm not a good planner, but I'm a wait list hound, man. Like I've been on the wait list for a lot of things, and I get in a lot of, like the churn rate, especially since 2020 of a 100-mile race. If I see myself and I've got a 2-digit number next to myself on the wait list, I was like, I'm probably getting it. Let's just be honest. But so I registered in like February. So, I mean, it was way late, but, so, I'm on the wait list, and I straight up forgot I was on the wait list. And then I don't know, like maybe August or so, probably July, I get an email letting me know that, hey, I got in. And so, it's just logistically talking with my wife and stuff, making sure, hey, do we think that I can make this happen? She's like, yeah, we'll make that happen. We'll make it good. I coach my son's soccer team. So, as soon as we get the schedule, I'm letting them know. I'm just like, hey, I'm going to miss this weekend to run a race. And once people know I run, I talk about running as much as they want because I love it. But I'm not a CrossFitter. I don't just bring it up. So I'm like, hey, I'm just not going to be here this Saturday, whatever. They're cool. They're just like, all right, whatever. But so we're going in, this is how, I've got mileage goals for the week. I don't really organize them that good. That's not the way I do it. This is literally how I come up with my training plans these days. I'm sitting on Strava and I see somebody does a workout. All right, let's screenshot that bad boy. I'm going to do that tomorrow. And so honestly, I probably look like a guy who's running an Ironman and a high school cross country meet at the same time. That's pretty much how I come up with this stuff. But so I got that going in, and then, so I'm getting my miles in. Not every week is not what I wanted to hit, because life just happens, but my wife's being super helpful. So we're all right, 9 a.m. soccer game, soccer field about 10 miles away. Yeah, I'd like to get a 15-mile trail run in, but I just don't see where it's happening. Okay, you get the kids ready. I'm going to run to soccer, stuff like that, making sure that I can get, just get it in, get it under the legs and stuff. And then I was, I'm sitting there looking, I was like, I'm not really hitting the miles I want to get on this training plan or whatever. And so then we're literally sitting there watching YouTube of David Roach talk about the Hard Rock, right? Have you guys heard what he did on that thing? Not his result, but how he did it.
Yeah.
So he basically said, he's like, I want to get the record, and I can't the record holder. He's got an insane VO2 max, but what I can't, he basically, his training philosophy and plan with science, which I have none of, said, I'm going to run so much speed work that 5-minute miles feel like 6-minute miles. 6-minute miles feel like 8-minute miles. He's like, so I just want to make those fast miles easier so that every mile feels easier. And I'm just like, that's what we're doing for the next 3 weeks. That's how we're getting ready. And so I essentially just like switched to where like every time I went out to run, I just ran hard, man. Like I wasn't like, there wasn't recovery pace. I would just run hard. And so I got that. And then, one thing like I do, like I set goals and I set stuff, but also this might sound a little hokey to some folks in the audience, whatever, but like, like it, I got a good amount of faith and stuff. So like I pray a lot about it. Every single race result I've seen beforehand. So like about a week out, I wake up in the morning and I was like, oh, cool, I'm going to win this race. And so that's why like, and I didn't realize like how much I let that like seep into the way I approached the race, because we're going back and looking at the race photos. I'm not even standing close to people at the start line. Like I'm just standing there at the start line all by myself, just zoned in, not talking to nobody. Just like, and like in my mind, I was there. I thought I was like being social, talking to people. Then I look back at these pictures. I'm just standing there on an island, just like looking like I'm ready to kill somebody. So obviously I let that mentality get in there. And I didn't like tell my wife that like that's what we were doing. I just handed her like my pace chart and I was like, hey, and I did not hit my paces. I ran too hard in the beginning to hit that number. But she like got that and she's like, and she saw me train. She was like, are you serious? I was like, yeah, I think that's what we're gonna do. And so we get out there and we start, and like again, and I'd seen myself win this race in my mind. I wanted to win this race. I mean, I literally, I started to win the race. We'd make that curve to start and didn't see anybody the rest of the day.
That's a great mentality. That's how I raced it. I mean, till I didn't. Me and Justin raced. I led like the first 30 or 40 miles, and then he passed me. I ended up being third overall, like 22 hours and something. But I mean, we raced the first 30 miles, David. I think we were running eights the whole time.
And yeah, I mean, I was going in like I knew I was making mistakes when I saw like a 650 pop up, and I was like, "Oh, that's really not that smart." That's
a little fast.
So then, I pulled back, but then, dude, I don't know what it was. Like I pulled back, and I was still hitting a little faster than we wanted. And I guess like at a point, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna really regret this later, but we're just gonna see how far we can do this.
So how far did you make it before you kind of started blowing up?
So I'm proud to say I didn't really like blow up like, oh my God, I'm done. Like, I just can't do this no more. But no, I mean, like I said, I mean, I was moving to like mile 40, mile 50 or so. And then, right about mile 60 is when it really started to hit me. I was like, I don't know how many more I don't think I can get anything lower than 9:30 anymore. I just can't do that anymore. Which maybe if I'd done something smarter before this, I'd have been able, like if I just even paced it, I'd been like better off. But that's when it hit me. Like I couldn't do that anymore. So I pulled back a little more. And at 60, Catherine paced me for that Blue Heron loop. And we were moving pretty good on that loop, which I was happy about. But, I could kind of tell in my mind, I was like, yeah, the pace is going to fall off a little bit here. So that's when I realized that like my original goal pace wasn't like, and I knew early on, I was like, I pretty much blew up this plan. I'm not making my goal time. But again, I was like, let's just see what happens. So I kind of, in the back of my mind, that was the point where I realized I probably wasn't going to make my goal time. But I knew as long as I kept running strong, I could keep that lead. So it went from like, hey, let's hit everything hard to what, in all due reality, you probably should do is let's hit everything right. So I come out of Blue Heron, I cross the river, and I mean that climb out of Blue Heron is just like garbage. So I walked it like garbage. I was like, we're walking up this hill all the way. So I do that. And then, you get some good road sections. And again, like me early in the race, I'd get to a road. I'm like, let's kill it. But like me later in the race, I'd get to it. I was like, all right, we're going to be, 10s and 11s, 10s and 11s, 10s and 11s, 10s and 11s. And then that last, because we're running clockwise, the way we were running, the even year, that last 14 miles is for sure the worst. Like, I mean, it's the hardest part of the race. So then like I'm hitting that and realizing I mean, I don't know if I'd left gas in the tank, I would have run it faster, but I don't know how much faster. Just because it was more technical. There's more switchbacks, so like you can only get so fast. So that's when I really like inside of myself internalized that I just needed to run out the clock. I just needed to be mindful of what was going on around me and just not slip up. And so I'm going, and I'm doing good at that. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna like sugarcoat, be like, and I'm just barely hanging on. Like, no, I was feeling good. If you look at my splits on run sign up, you're going to be like, this guy is lying through his teeth. But here's what happened. I'm going, and you got to make, so, and I am going to I'm going to start out by saying it was marked very well. It was marked super well. But there's a point about a mile before the last aid station, you make a hard left turn. You get to a T junction, you make a hard left turn. And the left turn is uphill and the straight is downhill. And I don't know, my body just wanted to go downhill more than it wanted to go uphill. So I didn't even look left. I just went straight. I'm like, oh, that's all right. We're just going to go straight. And I'm going. And I was like, man, it's been a little bit. And then we get to a bridge, and that's when it clicked. I was like, there has been a flag on every bridge, and there is not a flag on this bridge. Something is up. And so I was like, all right, I got to do it. I turn around, and I'm like, dude, I'm freaking out because it's late. And part because I knew I was in first, and I thought I was in first by a fair amount. I didn't know when I would see somebody. So I was confident that like I'd gone off trail, but I was also confident that even if I hadn't gone off trail, I was going to be walking the wrong direction for a while. So I'm just like walking back. I'm literally going through the woods yelling, it's a runner. I'm here. Didn't see a flag. There's a runner. Just thinking, I was like, somebody's got to hear this. And like, let's face it, we're all good people. We talked about it in the community. You're not sitting there coming up on somebody here and, hey, I'm lost in the woods. It's 2 a.m. I'm getting scared. Like, you're going to help that guy. So I'm just like, hey, runner on trail. I'm yelling. And then I get there and I look and I was like, man, there are a lot of flags at this turn. I just did not make the turn. And so I go up the trail and,
well, you probably, we're a little exhausted at this point.
Yeah, I just, like I said, I mean, left uphill, straight downhill. Yeah, let's go straight. That's what we got to do. So I go uphill, and Catherine's like letting me, she was super blessing. So she'd actually hiked into the aid station, which was awesome. Because one, like she talked to Sarah, who was running the aid station that we know, and like I get close, and I mean they're playing like some of my favorite music at this aid station. I was like, man, that's pretty cool. What are the odds of that? And I was like, oh, she told them to play it. The odds are 100%. And then and she was good. Like, I mean, in a super loving way. Like she let me know. She let me know the business. She's like, hey, you're winning. You can win. But you got to really focus, man. Like you got to actually like do it. And so like I was able to run the last like 4 miles in pretty well. Like I felt like my splits on that time were pretty good. And then, I crossed the finish line and felt great. And then like, Jared comes through like 30 minutes later, and he's a super cool guy. And after seeing him come through 30 minutes later, I realized two things. One, I did not need to be as paranoid as I was for like the last 10 miles. And two, I did need to be as paranoid as I was when I was lost, because if he was 30 minutes behind, like I would have been out there for the rest of my life if I hadn't turned around.
Well, How did your fueling go? What did you use? You said, I believe in the beginning you said that you had your wife bring.
Yeah, she brought Scratch out to
electrolyte.
me because like I said, Tailwind just doesn't do it. So I had Scratch, a lot of regular water, but like, so I like Cliff Blocks. That stuff is good, man. And some goos, and then like I do hit like regular food pretty hard. So I tried to be more explicit and fuel more during this race than I had in other races. So that I did have more energy at the end. And objectively, I ran in a way that did not allow for that to matter, but I also probably had more left at the end than I would have had I not eaten like I did. So I was every 30 minutes, and I organize it so I try and do it so I don't have to think that hard. So in my right pocket, I've got the bars, I've got the gels, I've got all like the runner stuff. In my left pocket, I've got like real people food. And so I just alternate. I'm just like 30 minutes right pocket, 30 minutes left pocket, 30. And so, and then, in that left pocket, there's, granola bars, Fig Newtons, I had some Doritos, some pretzels, Goldfish, stuff like that. In all due reality, I think I probably should have had a little bit more saltiness in my pack, just because I do think I lost a little bit more electrolytes than I meant to. And I just, I didn't pack the pack with too many salty snacks. So I just didn't have those available to me. And I think I should have been more cognizant of that. But no, that, heck, just like people write the book, right? 100-mile fueled on Doritos and granola bars.
Well, hey, whatever works.
Yeah.
You got to find what works.
Yeah.
So no GI issues, nothing major, no major vomit.
I had one vomit. And again, like that happens to me. I'm not gonna and that's probably part of the reason that it didn't freak me out. Cause I'm just like, all right, there it was.
Oh yeah.
But it was weird, man. Like I opened that granola bar, it hit my mouth, and I said, man, I usually like granola bars more. And then it hit my stomach, and it was like, yeah, no, it's coming back up, man. You're not keeping this.
Not today, boys. Not today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, no, but dude, I'll have to come out and do one of your races. You'll never see anybody puking rally like me. I mean, it's not like, hey, give me a minute or two. It's like, all right, we're doing good now. That evil is gone from my body.
You and Matt will get along great.
Oh yeah,
he'll puke.
This is every race. Almost, I would say 9 out of 10 races I'm throwing up.
Yeah. I mean, it just happens,
And then he starts smacking himself.
So
to stop puking.
My way to stop that is right before you feel it, you slap yourself till you almost knock yourself out. Or as you're throwing up, you slap yourself until you knock yourself out.
I don't recommend his advice, by the way.
But it completely takes your mind off from the throw coming up. So,
I just let it happen. I'm just like, all right, here it comes.
I'll let it happen.
Get it out.
I'll let it happen the first time. Like, I'll let it come out. But then it's that dry heaving afterwards that I can't stand, because it's just like, this is stupid because there's nothing in here. I've already let everything out. So give yourself a really good smack to where you almost knock yourself out. And then you're like, oh, I'm done. And then you get back to running. Instantly back to running.
Yeah, no, it's fine. And sometimes you need like Catherine, just because, I mean, she knows me. Running a GDR that second time I did it, I was coming in, and I was having some GI issues. It was not going too good. And I'm just like, I hit her at a cruise station. I was like, babe, I've thrown up twice. I'm not doing good. And, I think at some level I was looking for her to be like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm. Something's wrong. Let's head home. But what she said, she goes, oh man, well, you really love running at Jake Bull, and that's what's coming up next. So I think you're going to have a lot of fun there. I'm just like, okay, message received. All right, we're getting out of here.
So how did it feel crossing that finish line, knowing that you set out what you set out to do, you accomplished, and you kind of felt like you were going to win this race? So how did it feel coming through that finish line?
Oh, it felt great. I mean, like winning is a singular feeling, like, and I was like, simply because only one person does it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's kind of one of those things where it's something that you can't replicate by doing anything else. And like one of my favorite phrases is winning is only good if you can also lose. Like, just because it's like, let's face it, I mean, it's not that much fun to play tic-tac-toe with my 7-year-old when he was 4, because I'm just like, oh yeah, well, I won again. No fun. But dude, yeah, crossing that finish line in first place. I mean, it's a great feeling, just because like you can't replicate it. Like, I mean, it's a lot of things. At some level, it's a justification of how you got there. At some level, it's letting you know that you did a good job. Like, you feel great at that finish line no matter what place you come in. But whenever you do it in first, you're just like, wow, I mean, I did something kind of special today. Like, I mean, there's something else. There's something beyond just what you can do. It's something that I did relative to other people. Like, you can't take that away from the accomplishment, because you can't look back and go, oh, hey, this guy did something better. This guy did that. This guy did that. It's like, no, like I was the guy. I did the thing, And I was texting with one of my training buddies, Charlie, he's running a race this weekend in Mexico. He's probably the only person that I train with that comes in with a similar mindset. And I was letting him know, I was like, hey, I didn't reach my goal time. And he summed it up pretty good. He's like, man, winning's the A goal. Like, it does, because I mean, you just can't control so many other things, like if you're out there and you actually like beat people, that's all you can do. Like I referred to it earlier, it's the knife fight. And the reason I say that is because like anything could go wrong for anybody and anything could go right for anybody else. So you just got to be prepared to take it and roll with it. And I was handed the same bag of rocks you were. I just got to make it into something better.
Yeah. And, know, and just having a little bit of luck on your side goes a long way in a 100-mile race.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was kind of like you said, I mean, you can look at, it's not the end all be all. And I mean, I've got a million other things going on outside of this. So it's not, but like earlier this year, I was like kind of looking at it from a perspective of it's a weird hobby. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a weird hobby we're into. And I'm good at it. I like that, but I was looking at it and we went out and ran the rut in Montana, which is super fun. Like that was our anniversary gift to each other. My wife and I both went out there and we ran it. And like for me, one of the things that like really struck me, because I'd never thought of myself in this regard, because like, again, like I started running because I had a bunch of free time in college, not because anybody ever told me I was good at it. Like my dad did it when I was a kid. Like, so all I knew is that, all right, my dad leaves the house, he comes back 45 minutes later. That's what running is. Like, I mean, so like, no, like I never, you can look, I've had other finishes, I've won other races and stuff, but it was weird because I finished the rut and I was in like 40th, which is like, that's not winning. But going into it, I got put in wave 2 and I'd kind of started to think of it differently. I was like, I've never been in wave 2. Like, what's going on here, man? And I knew some people in wave 1. I was like, why are they in wave 1? And I started to feel a certain way. And so I started, I ran it and I ran good. I ran fine. And I looked back and I realized that I came in like 41st. Runner number 1 through 40 had some level of sponsorship attached to their name. And that's when it like really hit me. I was like, dude, I'm not like I belong here. Like I need to run like somebody that like can run, like not just somebody that goes out there like, every few weekends. Like, so then coming into like that, I think that's part of the reason that I wanted to win No Business, not just run it, was because I got that taste. I was like, I do belong as somebody that runs hard. Like, so I'm like, so I'm going to run it hard, you know?
It's, I mean,
Yeah.
great mindset, and
Yeah.
you don't know until you try, you know. And it's
Yeah.
funny, it's funny that you tried that in no business, because that's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
You know, it was just finally like, I'm going to run this one hard, and
Yeah.
you know, and you don't know till you try it, and in a way, it kind of helps you learn how far you can kind of push before you let off the throttle to get back, and you know, so that you don't just blow up. And I think that's important, because if you can start a race out pretty strong, you don't get caught in the middle of the pack, you don't get
Yeah.
caught in all of that, and you know, you can run your race then. It's just
Yeah.
knowing when that governor needs to kick in.
Yeah, and I think that I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like you don't know what you can do until you try, and it's just like it I mean, you know, this whole thing's been mostly about mindset. Like, I don't always understand the mindset when somebody tells me that, there have been people, like, and there are at every 100-mile race, where they're just like, yeah, I'm not sure if I'm gonna finish, and like, for me, like, hearing that makes me almost a little frustrated and sad, because I'm just like, man, like, if you already up here aren't sure if you're gonna finish, you're starting behind the 8 ball, because like, you're already telling yourself that there's a possibility. Like, you got to take that possibility out of your mind, and you're going to be 4 steps ahead of where you are right now. Just get it right out of your brain.
Yeah, 100%. While Matt pulls up the questions, I got a question for you that we ask every listener, and that is, and I think at this point you've kind of explained this some.
Yeah.
But you know, I think it's a good question just to ask directly and get your full answer, and that is, why do you run? Like, when everything's going wrong, life's hard, you got 4 kids, you got a wife, so you obviously have plenty to do without running. Why do you run? Like, what keeps you going?
Dude, I just love it. You know, I mean, it's good because, one, I think being mentally being mentally healthy and mentally strong and alert, I think, is tied directly with being physically active and physically healthy. So like, in my mind, like, you know, it's great. It clears my head. I'm in a good mood. I listen to music, listen to a podcast, get something going. Don't listen to anything. Just get up here for a little bit. I mean, it's a good time where I can kind of reevaluate what's going on outside, because all there is to focus on is what's inside. So whether that's climbing up that hill, or getting myself emotionally right after something didn't happen right, or getting myself mentally ready for the next thing. Like, I mean, it's good to be in a spot where that's the only focus, is getting right.
Totally understand that. I love to hear everybody's why, because you know, in general, something draws everybody to the sport that gets involved into it. And interesting enough, like, over time, your why changes. You may not realize that till you really think about it, but you know, your why you got into it to begin with is completely different 5 years from now. You know, like, why you started and why you continue to do it. It's like you fall in love with it, and you just learn more about yourself, and like, so your why just continues to change. So thank you for that.
No,
Mr.
thank you.
Williams, we'll turn it over to you, sir, for some listener questions.
The first one is, I would say it's from somebody that you personally know. The question is, David, why is your wife, Catherine, so cool? So she says she's just kidding. She knows you guys pretty well. She's actually ran, I think, a couple of our races, but I guess she's one of your friends.
She's awesome. She's the best. No, I mean, I think I don't remember if I talked about it during our prep session, or, well, actually, in the podcast. I mean, first of all, she's a much more gifted athlete than I am. Like, I mean, she is incredible. So like, I love to like share this activity with her, because like, she's just so good at it. But no, she's so cool because she's just fun to be around. She's super grounded. And like, she's honest, man. I mean, she's gonna let you know one way or the other how she feels, and I just love that about her because at the end of the day, like that's what you need in a partner. That's what you need in somebody else. And like, golly, it's so overplayed, but I mean, she's genuinely my best friend. Like, we hang out a lot. Like, I like to play games with her. We like to do the same things. She's great. I mean, there's no one better.
Well, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
All right. These next questions are about.
You didn't know who asked that question? I just.
Melissa.
Okay.
Next ones are about more trail running. What shoes do you wear during your hundreds?
Yeah, so I've worn Hoka Torrents most. I wear Hokas a lot, and I like them. They're a really good shoe. They're a real good shoe. But I'll go back and forth on different ones. I don't like to change shoes during the race. I know some people do, but that scares me. That makes me nervous. But I like the Torrent because it gives me a good level of feel for the trail. So like, I feel like my feet are more connected to the ground. I feel like I got a lot more control. And so that's why I really like the Torrent. I ran a Tecton X2 one time. That's a good shoe. That's a real speedy shoe. That was a lot of fun. But I will say for the 100, I could tell that there was less padding in that shoe than others by the end of it. But man, for a bit, I'd kill a 50K in that thing.
What made you want to run No Business?
Like I said earlier, my friend Cassie had been talking it up for a while, so I knew that it was going to be pretty. I knew it was going to be fun. And so, I mean, that was what I was looking forward to, just having a pretty fun race. It fell at a good time on the calendar. We were ready to roll, man.
Do you use a pack or handhelds during your races?
Yeah, I've got a Solomon pack. And I've debated moving away from the pack, but I mean, I'm an Eagle Scout, always be prepared. So I'm running heavy. I got too much stuff for handhelds, and dude, I don't know. You guys are race directors. I'm sure you're good at it. I've never been to a race that didn't have food at an aid station. Yeah. But the next one that I do, I'm going to be the only guy out there prepared for it. For some reason in my head, I'm like, man, I better carry every snack I'm going to need. Like, I can't trust it. Like, I don't know what it is.
I mean, at least that way you know what you're putting in your stomach. Is going to.
Yeah. So you do have a little bit of insurance on that, but yeah, no, yeah. I carry way too much stuff, and so yeah, I got to go with the pack.
I think how I do it, if I know that my crew can always be at the aid stations, it wouldn't be such a big deal. But then when you get out there, and you're like, well, I ain't got no crew. There's nobody coming. So I want all my stuff with me from what I think that I'm going to need. And David over here runs in 2 handhelds the whole time.
I admire that so much, especially because, like at No Business the other day, like, it would have been nice to have a little bit less of that heat trapped in my body. Yep. I think that would have been helpful, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's got its ups and downs. So like when you run with 2 handhelds, like at Pinhoti, mile 40-ish, my shoulders started getting a little sore, so it's one of those where, like, just carrying that weight running eventually wears on you too. So, you're trading off. Yeah. At least with the pack, you don't have that, but you're right. 100%. You're carrying more heat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, like, I mean, I've during the summer months, I mean, I will take my shirt off under the pack, and sometimes that works out fine. Other times I come back and I was like, well, shoot, I got some blistering in areas that don't usually blister,
Yeah. Yeah, it's all a trade-off, and it's whatever you get used to. I've been slowly trying to transition to just 100% bottles, and I'm pretty much there now. But I used to run with Solomon Advanced Skin. That's still one of my favorite packs.
Yeah.
I got 3 more questions, and we've already answered this one. Do you have a crew for your 100 milers? And most of the time, that's your wife.
But yeah, most of the time it's my wife. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Your preferred hydration?
I mean, I like water. I do like water a lot, but I mean, you can't just tough it out on water on a 100-mile race. So I use Scratch. I like Scratch because it tastes real good, and a lot of them do have caffeine elements in there, which especially later in the day is real nice. And it's not a harsh caffeine. Like you know how it is. Like sometimes you drink some of the caffeine and you know it real quick. That Scratch didn't like that.
I love Scratch. It's still one of my favorites. It doesn't have a ton of calories in it.
Yeah,
but it's just good.
Yeah, that's my only complaint. Now even less calories, but man, dude, I'll crush some Element. Like, man, if I'm out there mowing the yard, like I'm wanting some Element. That stuff is good.
There's one that Matt hates. Which one is it?
That stupid mango chili or them habanero or them.
I'm about it. I like that one.
I remember he gave me all of his. I'm like, yeah, I'll take
two spicy ones. I'm like, nah. So the first time I ever got it, it was from Mid-State Mile. First time I ever got it. And the raspberry's good, watermelon's good, the orange is great. Well, they had them too. And the guy I work with, I'm always giving him just random stuff. So there's two of them. I gave him both of them. I gave one guy one nasty flavor, the other one the other nasty flavor. I said, here, just try these. So they put these in these bottles, and they're shaking it up, and they take one sip of this, and they're spitting this stuff out everywhere. And like, I'm never trusting you again with this stuff. I'm like, hey, it's got spicy stuff in it, and it's a hydration mix. You will not catch me.
I think it's great. I would never use it in an actual race, but I like it.
I think if it had more calories, I for sure would. But it's just there's no calories in it. I might as well just be drinking regular water. I hadn't found a flavor. I also like spicy beer, so I'm gonna like that spicy Element. But I love
only pumpkin.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that's a good one. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's the spicy pumpkin ale.
Yeah.
But no, the only Element that I've had that I wasn't too fond of is they've got the unflavored one, which I'm just like, dude, the flavor guy just called in sick that day. Like, I mean, you just put salt in the packet, man.
But I'll tell you what, it's awesome is I actually keep an unflavored packet in my box now.
Yeah, to scratch.
And like, if I ever feel dehydrated, I just pour it into whatever my electrolyte is. I just pour it in there, because that's like a miracle drug.
That might be a good way because what I did in the last race, I took my Roctane. I took 2.5 scoops, a serving and a half, and I put it in there. Then I took a salt tablet pill, popped it open, and put it in there because it's only got 300 milligrams of sodium in a serving. That's not enough for what I like. I like it more. And I'm like, I'm gonna try this, and it worked. But that's a good idea to take the unflavored and pour it into that. That's a good idea.
Well, I mean, if you ever get dehydrated or you get behind,
it's gonna hit you quicker.
I mean, you're talking. So you've got your Scratch, which already has 200 or 300 milligrams of sodium, I think. Turn around and pour that LMNT in there, which has 1,000 milligrams of sodium. Yeah. You just got to make sure you drink some water afterwards, but it will fix most of your cramp problems. So that's why I just keep it with me.
So
that's a real good call. Yeah.
So I agree with you. The unflavored is awful by itself, but it is amazing with another electrolyte like Scratch.
I'm going to try that next time. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think I probably got 3 or 4 unflavored in my bag, in my box.
There you go.
The last question I have is, what is your favorite race day snack? Either at an aid station or just to keep in your pack.
Man, you're going to have to narrow it down to one.
Yeah, I got to narrow it down to one. Man, my Desert Island race day snack. That's a tough one. Man, golly. I get I get two. All right, so I'm gonna go with grilled cheese and watermelon. Honestly, part because and I've done this before on non-race long runs. The grilled cheese is just as good cold. You don't need that thing heated up. You're good to go. So if it's hot, I can eat it cold. If it's cold, I can eat it hot. So it's good. It's good food. And then watermelon's pretty clutch always. Very low calorie, but pretty clutch. But I kind of like to listen to my body a lot. So like I didn't have any grilled cheeses at No Business, but man, I was crushing some carrot sticks. That was pretty. that was the move that day. But yeah, if you had to like gun to head, we're starting this thing tomorrow. Grilled cheese and watermelon.
Well, I mean, carrots have pretty good carbs in them, though. So that was probably a win. But I'm with you, man. Grilled cheese. My stomach can always take a grilled cheese.
Yep.
I don't know
that thing is a friendly food. Yeah.
It's like no matter what, I can eat a grilled cheese.
Like I love bacon. I could eat bacon all the time. But sometimes even when you come to an aid station, like, I really just don't trust the bacon right now because it gets in your teeth.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking. Yep.
Then you get the grilled cheese or the quesadilla, and it's like, this stuff just goes down so easy. I could eat these all day.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, and it's got like a good crunch to it. So, but you don't have to work too hard to chew it. So it's got like it's got a lot going for it.
Yep.
I love it at night when it's kind of cold, and someone's got some just fresh off the grilled cheeses. There, that's it. That's perfect.
Yeah, that's the move. The only complaint I'll ever have is, I mean, they're sitting there thinking, they're just like, all right, here's a quarter of a grilled cheese, man. No, a quarter's not doing the job. You got to give me a few squares.
Yeah, with me as I go.
Dude, I've been doing this since like middle school. Grilled cheeses have 4 sides, not 3. Okay, like let's make it happen.
I just ran 80 miles. I got 20 more to go. I have a whole grilled cheese.
Dude, that's the worst part of road race. It's like, hey man, congratulations for running this marathon. Here's half a banana.
Like, not even a half. You get like a third.
Yeah. You don't even get the peel off. You're just like, man, I got to work harder to get like 2 bites of banana. Yeah.
Here's a third of your banana, and here's a cutie.
Oh yeah, and a little water.
Yeah, the aid station is really what you need to sell people from the road to get them onto the trail. They're just like, dude, it's you go from having a quarter ounce of Gatorade to having like a full meal.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, David, do you have any questions for us?
Oh, dude, man. Why do you guys run? Let's hear it from you.
So, I started running in like 2015. It was I was going through a divorce and had never ran a day in my life. Like, I was not a track person, was never ran in high school, anything like that. And just started running and just kind of fell in love with it, which I never saw myself as a runner. And then it just became one of those things where, like you were talking about earlier, like it became a part of who I was. It became a part of my calm. It became a way for me to work through my own problems and help me figure out, how to be a better person, how to be a better dad, how to be, just be better in general. And from there, it just became, a passion and a love that, has helped me become a better person in general. And all the way to, starting East Coast Adventures, we started this during COVID, and, I'm 3-4 years into running. I think I ran my first ultra close to the same time you did, David. It was like 2017, maybe 2018. So, and as I was looking through this, me and you ran GDR the same year.
Oh, cool.
But that was like my longest distance ever at that point. So I had no idea what I was doing. And it's just funny just to see like how people cross paths that you never even realize. Like, I never knew I ran a race with you till I was just like going through your ultra sign up. But that's why I love it in general. It's just like, it makes me want to be, and helps me to actually be a better person, a better human. It gives me patience. It gives me kindness. It gives me my time to just figure out how to be better, and gives me time to figure out my problems.
I think for me, it was like I was cross country and track in high school, and played varsity basketball. And then after that, it was like, after you graduate, you're always searching for something else to do. Because I guess my mentality was, you're in high school athlete. This is what you do. So then after you graduated, like, you got to do something. So then it was some 5Ks for a while. Then it went into working out. Like, I want to be a bodybuilder. Well, that didn't work out, because then I went to play basketball again, and I couldn't breathe. I'm out there running. I'm like, this is stupid. So then I went back to running, and it was slowly getting back into it, and I loved it because from being a high school runner, you're like, I'm not doing this when I graduate, and I was kind of like trying to avoid that, and then I started getting back into it. I'm like, well, this is what I'm good at. This is what I like doing. I love this, and then I found ultras through East Coast Adventures, and I'm like, okay, this is pretty hard. I should be better at this. And then through all that, you're out there by yourself. And then that was a time where I got to like just clear my head and just run. And then my daughter saw me doing it. And then she got to watch me do stuff. And then she wanted to like come to it. And now she wants to run with me. She wants to do 5Ks. So I do a lot of like, it's for my mental part where I get to be myself and just be alone. But then my kids get to see me do hard things. They get to see me do stuff that sucks. At some point, you're dying out there, but then they're asking me, Daddy, when's your next race? When do you get to go? When are you doing this? And now they come to all of the races, almost all of them. Mm-hmm. And they're cheering the runners on just like we are. They're helping me set stuff up. So they get to see the stuff we do, and then they're voluntarily doing it themselves. And so that's one of the things that I love. That's one of my biggest things, that as they're growing up, I'm not forcing this on them, but they're seeing us do it. I mean, they see David, they see Mike, and they love it. And so, that's one of the things that I just love about it.
Yeah, I miss those days.
Awesome.
Yeah. My daughter was the same way till she turned about 14. Then she just quit running.
Yeah.
But, it was so fun because like what Matt said is like, she saw me doing hard things. She actually come out and ran. I mean, she did a 17-mile trail race when she was 11 years old.
Yep.
She was the youngest finisher ever. And then all of a sudden it was like, yeah, Dad, I'm done. And every now and then she'll come out to a race, but like she doesn't really get involved anymore, which is fine. I'm sure I burn her out on some of it, but that was really fun though, was to, just like what he said, it's like your kids see you doing hard things and they see that you don't give up.
Yep.
And they see that you are hurt or you are hurting, and that's okay. And
yeah,
and
my
really
son, yeah, my oldest son is kind of on that same trajectory that you're talking about. Like he actually, before this started, I was taking, so we were coming from church. I took 3 of the kids home, got them ready for bed. And my son every Wednesday night likes to run with Catherine. So they started a little tradition where they run a 5K every Wednesday after church, and he loves it. He's a heck of a soccer player, but I mean, he's told me he wants to run races when he gets older. So he actually asked me. He's 7 now. He goes, I think I want to win a 100-mile race. I was like, well,
I love it.
I was like, you're off to a much better start than I was, because when I was 7, I didn't do anything. So that's cool.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of happy because I've never tried to like push running on my daughter. Mm-hmm. And actually at one point I was like, you should do cross country or track. No, she never has, but she played powder puff for the high school a couple weeks ago and scored like 2 touchdowns running the ball in. And now they have talked her into she's going to do track this coming year. And I'm like excited. I'm like, I'm not getting involved. You do it. Yep. Great. But I'm kind of excited and see how she does, and that's the thing. It's like, I thought she was going to be done running. So to actually see her wanting to do track now, it's awesome. And just like your son, I mean, who else in the world at that age would know that 100-mile race even exists?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's cool. That's this small community of kids.
Yeah.
I mean, Matt's daughter, she comes out and runs almost every little 5K we put on within the community. She's out there racing. She loves it.
And then that's built up to where we just put on the dirt circuit in September. And she says, Daddy, I want to run the 3-hour. She only does 5Ks. And so each loop is almost a 5K each loop. And she did 2 of them within her 3-hour period. And
but hey, dude, that's something,
She loved it.
Yeah.
She came through with big old smiles on her face. And then she's like, so Daddy, when's my next race? Because I'm not saying, hey, you're doing this race. This is what you're doing. It's like, hey, when is my next one? And I'm like, we'll find you one. I mean, we got a few more local races that are coming up, 1 milers or a 5K, and you sign her up and she's ready to go.
Yeah, dude. The kids make everything so much better.
It's awesome. It is.
Well, and you got 4 kids, so you at least got like a 50-50 shot of 1 or 2 of them actually sticking with running.
That's what I keep focusing on. I'm just like, all right, which one of these kids is going to get me through retirement? I got to get one. I'm just like, this one's good at soccer. This one, she's smart. Let's get them moving.
Yeah. You just go ahead and start showing them pictures of Courtney right now, DeWalter. It's like,
but no, it's cool though, because I mean, like, I think Matt kind of hit it. You don't want to. I want them to do whatever they want to be. But like what I don't want them to do is I don't want them to not like what they're doing, but I also don't want them to think it's fun all the time either. Like I had like whenever they go through something hard, it made me real happy. My daughter did not have a great experience with one of her teams last year, but she wanted to sign up again this year. And I mean, I was like, oh, that's good. I'm happy you want to sign up. She goes, yeah, I just want to make sure that it wasn't just a bad experience. I want to make sure that it's really not for me. I'm like, dude, that's awesome. I think that's so great that like you already thinking, hey, it's possible to just have something not fun happen to you. That doesn't make the activity not fun. That just means I had a bad few weeks. Let's see if maybe this is for me.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you try to force it on them, it's never going to stick.
No.
Never.
No. And I mean, like, let's face it. I mean, they're not going to be the best version of themselves when they do it either. It doesn't matter. Like, I mean, nobody wants to do anything they're forced to do.
Well, and the benefit to us three dads sitting here talking about this too is that, I mean, we do run 100-milers. So that one thing alone gives you plenty of patience. I mean, it truly has given me so much patience because I've learned that like you just gotta like give it time sometimes, And
Catherine summed it up really well one time. She's just like, you're telling me that for the next X number of hours, I only have to worry about how tired I am, how much food I eat, and where I go. Yeah, it's a break.
That's awesome. Well, David, man, it has been an absolute pleasure getting to learn about you.
Fun, man.
And thank you for sharing your stories and just telling us your entire story about how you got into running, talking about your family and your wife. And, we can't wait to see what races you sign up for in the near future. And
can't wait to make it up to an East Coast adventure race, man.
Oh, we would love that, man. We would love that. Especially since you're, you're in Georgia, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What part of Georgia, by the way?
LJ.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely know where that's at.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like next time you're on your way down, just stop in Blue Ridge. I don't need you trafficking up the streets or anything. Just I'll come meet you in Blue Ridge. Don't worry about it. You don't need to come all the way down.
Well, when I get this boot off my foot one day,
Blue Ridge isn't far at all.
Well, dude, but truly, it's been fun. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to jump on the podcast with us, and we'll definitely have to have you on here again and catch up. But thank you,
man,
so
dude. Thanks for having me. It's been a ton of fun.
Awesome, man. Well, take care and thank you so much, David.
Thanks, David.
All right, thanks, y'all. I appreciate it.